The Baltimore Ravens have a busy week ahead with it being draft week, and there's talk around some of the veterans on their roster. We talk about what Adam Schefter had to say at some Ravens who could potentially be deemed expendable as the draft rolls around, as well as the Ravens revealing next steps for Lamar Jackson during their strength and conditioning program. All that and more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, thank you for being here today, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day as well. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms, including in video form where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe. We're a 5-day-week Ravens podcast, so every Monday through Friday, we bring you daily Ravens coverage. Plus, we have so much content coming our way this draft weekend. We're going to go live after every single night or day of the draft, have bonus episodes on Saturday and Sunday. So draft is really exciting. It's an exciting time. And here with me is former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver and Super Bowl champion Qadry Ismail. And Q, I want to give you a little round of applause here, first of all, because we are almost done with speculating who's going to be in this Ravens draft class. We are so close to figuring out who it actually is going to be, who these next group of young Ravens actually is. And you've done a heck of a job speculating here with me. But soon, it's going to be your time to evaluate these guys. So you're going to know who these next bunch of Ravens are.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it. The speculation is just nuts. You got the Liars Luncheon where Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh, they go up and talk about what they see in the draft. There's a lot of deception going on, whether or not they're going in one direction versus another direction. The hearsay around it, the why of why this guy looks a certain way and plays a certain way compared to another athlete. It's so just overdone. But yes, I've been patient. I will be on television on Thursday talking about it at the Under Armour Performance Center. And when it's done, and I'll be happy. And then we can get into some real talking about football.
Yeah, I remember, when Nate Wiggins was drafted, Roger Rosengarten. I mean, you said, hey, it's go time, and you evaluated those guys, and look what happened. Those two had incredible impacts for the Ravens over the course of their rookie seasons. Hopefully, Baltimore will get a couple more of those guys who can have an impact this year. Before we get into the rookie class, or at least the to-be rookie class of the Ravens, Q, there's a lot of trade rumblings going around Baltimore right now about potential trade candidates. And Adam Schefter had an article that dropped on Monday morning just talking about everything that he had heard, some draft notes. And he noted towards the end of the article that draft weekend is a busy time for trades of players who are already on rosters. And so he listed out some players on rookie contracts who he said could be deemed expendable. And on this list is Odafe Oweh. Now, you and I have had conversations about Oweh over the past couple of months about, hey, is he an underrated trade candidate for the Ravens? He's obviously playing on the 5th-year option this season. An extension could possibly happen, but the Ravens also might say, hey, whatever Oweh's asking for, it might be too much. So when you look at Oweh, we saw the Ravens have to face a decision like this with Marquise Brown, where he didn't want to be on the team, but they also had an extension that they had to figure out if they wanted to get a deal done with him or not. Oweh has improved. He's ascended. He had his first double-digit sack season last year, so it's not like he is underperformed. I know the consistency is a little here and there, but for Oweh, what's your overall take on him right now? Because he is one of the bigger pieces in this Ravens edge room, but they don't really have a lot there right now.
So for Odafe, I think he's a player that reminds me of what they did with Torrey Smith. Torrey was extremely productive and really showed himself to be a strong number 2. When he wanted number 1 type love in the form of a better contract, that's where Ozzie went to the market and said, go ahead, test it. He did, and he wound up getting his bag elsewhere. And it wasn't necessarily that they didn't want Torrey back, but they feel like he was worth a certain number. when you look at what Daf is going through, somewhat similar in that he is productive, but he's not like just killer upper tier, TJ Watt productive. Heck, we know Trey Hendrickson has gotten that second and third contract, and now he's, wants more, but his productivity in key moments in those big splash plays, like that's what separates you and that's what puts you on the map. So, yes, you have had some moments, but you didn't really have that T sizzle type, just dominant play on your resume right now that would indicate, man, we definitely need to have you. Now they're in that gray area where it's almost like, again, CJ Mosley. We really like you, CJ. We think you can play. But, if you get something somewhere else, go ahead, bro. We're not going to stop you. I think that's something that you have to look at with Odafe Oweh. Productive, sure. But that big bag that you think you're going to get might not be coming in the purple and black.
Right. If he wants to get paid, maybe not along the lines of a Hendrickson, TJ Watt, or Myles Garrett, but maybe a tier below that, you're kind of thinking to yourself, well, does the production match up to a tier 2 level edge rusher contract? And your answer to that question right now is probably no. If he had another great season, he continued to ascend, maybe that changes. But, we saw Oweh get cryptic on social media a couple of months ago. Again, who knows what that was in relation to, but it was right around the time we were talking about, hey, what could that contract maybe look like for Oweh if the Ravens and Oweh were to agree on an extension? So maybe this is a situation where if Baltimore gets offered the right package, they could maybe trade him on draft night, or they might let him play out the season. And like you talked about with the Torrey Smith, the CJ Mosley, he leaves, gets the money that he wants from somewhere else. The Ravens get a comp pick back and everybody moves on and everybody kind of gets what they want there. Let's say a team, I don't know, offers a second or third. Would you be shocked if Oweh was traded on draft night? And if you're Baltimore, what is the minimum that you would have to get from another team to even consider that?
Here's my speculating. I think for Dolph, you're an edge rusher, you're young, you're relatively healthy, you got a good resume as far as your productivity. Man, I mean, I'm saying nothing lower than a third, or you're going to have to give me like a really good multi pick package if it's lower than that third, and I would be like, all right, cool, we'll be satisfied with that. And now it's Eric DaCosta and company doing what they do best as far as trying to figure out what they need to do to fill in that hole with those extra picks. So picks are currency in Ravenland, and trying to get deals and be crafty with deals, it's again currency. So I'm not sitting here saying that, oh my God, like this is a situation where, Odafe, if it's a first rounder or nothing, nah, because then they would just sign him. But I think, yeah, make it sweeten the pot. Sweeten the pot, you got Odafe Oweh.
Right. And again, I think that Odafe Oweh can still be a piece that can help you win a Super Bowl this upcoming season. Now, his future beyond this year, who knows? But at this point, like anything less than a third, I'm not taking, because I'd rather have the production value of Oweh. Plus, there's just not really a lot else in that room. Like Kyle Van Noy has been great for you over the past 2 years, but he is getting older. I still expect Van Noy to have another good year, but you want to be able to help manage him as he gets older. Tavius Robinson, Q, I know both you and I have very high hopes for Tavius in year 3. David Ajabo, maybe not so much. There's not really a lot that he's shown you so far. And then Adisa Isaac's kind of a wild card. If you take Oweh out and you trade him for just a pick, you'd have to spend multiple draft picks on edge rushers in this draft class, which isn't necessarily a bad strategy. But Oweh has proven himself. He has been around for a little while now. And I think that he can still provide value to you. And it's the same conversation with Mark Andrews, where obviously out of the two, Andrews is probably more likely to get dealt. If I had to predict, I'd probably say Oweh does not get dealt, but we've seen crazier things happen. Andrews, there's a lot more uncertainty. And you and I haven't had a shot to talk about this yet, but Eric DeCosta, his comments during the Liars Luncheon or pre-draft press conference didn't inspire a ton of confidence in will Andrews be on the team in 2025. Obviously commended Mark for everything he's done with the Ravens, but didn't necessarily commit to Andrews for this season. We know that the roster bonus was picked up. That cap savings gets cut from $11 million to $7 million with that. There have been reports coming out from Mike Garafolo and others that, yes, Andrews was available at the start of the new league year. The Ravens didn't get what they wanted. They pulled him back. We know teams can get desperate in the draft. Maybe a team like the Chargers has their eye on one of those first-round tight ends. Both of them go early. Maybe the Chargers turn around to Baltimore and say, hey, actually, we'll give you what you want. What's your read on Mark Andrews right now in the entire situation?
It's kind of interesting because in one swoop, you hear John Harbaugh talking, here's the deal. I love Mark Andrews and all the platitudes that he poured forth on him, and I want him on a team and, have him be a member of the Ravens. And then, at the Liars Luncheon, you have Eric DeCosta just kind of playing it down the middle, like, great guy. Oh, yeah, love him, productive, healthy. Hey, you should pick him up. No. Why he didn't say explicitly you should pick him up, I think the fact that it wasn't the ringing endorsement, and you and I plus all the other pundits, we started like, whoa, what is this? This is different than what John Harbaugh said. John was saying, yo, we want him. Eric was like, fine player, great, good for him. So I think there is behind the scenes a lot going on that we aren't privy to that says that, make us a deal, we'll give you Mark Andrews.
I think it is just it's a free-flowing situation because I think that the Ravens do have that firm level of capital that they would want for Mark. If they don't get that, it's just worth having him on the roster. He's probably going to walk in the offseason next year. You and I have talked about it. They're not going to be able to keep Andrews and likely on the roster beyond next year unless something absolutely crazy happens. And in that event, you pick Isaiah Likely over Mark Andrews based off of the potential, the age, just the timelines of where they are in their career. It's not that Mark isn't a great player. To be still a top 5 tight end, I'm not going to let that Buffalo game overshadow what he's done as a player over the course of his career. But even still, we know that Isaiah Likely is chomping at the bit to get that starting job, and he will be able to flourish when he fully has it. But if you're just getting a 4th rounder for Mark Andrews or a 5th rounder for Mark Andrews, it's better for the Ravens just to keep the production on the roster and let him walk in the offseason because you still get a comp pick anyway, and you still get the value of a top 5 tight end. So we'll see what happens this draft process. I mean, again, there is uncertainty with Mark Andrews. Oweh seems a little more certain will be on the roster, but as Adam Schefter did note, and he wrote it in his article here too, a veteran that could be available via trade, Mark Andrews is on this list. So trade speculation, Q's favorite thing, galore for the Ravens right now, as we are just a couple days away from the draft coming up. But coming up in the second part of the show, we're going to be talking about the Ravens strength and conditioning program kicking off. We had Scott Elliott talk about his indications on what's going on with the Ravens, and we know Q knows his stuff about this topic, so we're going to dive into Lamar Jackson's next steps and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Gametime, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Gametime makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and the last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. And here's why I use Gametime. You have last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. Plus, the all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Again, download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with Qadry Ismail and Q. We can see it, the missile training in the background. You know your stuff about conditioning, training, strength training, movement, the whole 9 yards. The Ravens kicked off their strength and conditioning program in the offseason on Monday, and strength and conditioning coordinator Scott Elliott had a lot to say about where the Ravens are with their program, new things that they're introducing. I want to start off just first of all talking about the last couple of years for the Ravens before we talk about what he said about Lamar Jackson. It was a whole topic. We've been doing this a long time. We couldn't go a week without talking about major injuries happening for years, you and I doing this. The last couple of years, though, it has been a little better, right? It's been decent in terms of injuries. Not that they've been completely, it's not a clean bill of health. You're never going to have that in the NFL. But based off what we saw over the last handful of seasons, these last two have been refreshing. So how do you kind of evaluate the last 2 seasons for Baltimore injury-wise? Because while guys are still missing time, feels like there are a lot less catastrophic injuries that have happened.
Well, I will say this, that the strength and conditioning program, they have had their moments where, yes, it was rough. The F minus, and there's still some F minus in the building. It's just colored up a little bit differently. So it's not as noticeable when it comes to, I think, the conditioning when it, say, a game against Cincinnati, and you have to, have extra time, and you got to really just bear down and make the plays when it really counts. I think they've shown that they're in good condition. Historically, John Harbaugh's training camp, you ask any guy, it's a hard training camp. They really put it to guys, and it's intense. With that said, yes, the catastrophic injuries, you don't see it as blatantly as you've seen in previous years. You do see, yes, some breakdowns, and those breakdowns cause play not to be as good as you would like it to be. But yeah, you got to look at it and say that the combination of the strength and conditioning, but also what they've done in the training room to kind of help put together a good recovery program has been working.
And I think when you talk about some of the things that the Ravens have focused on, obviously shifting training camp practice time, shifting other things around, John Harbaugh has tried a lot, especially in those years where we saw the whole running back room get decimated before week 1. They had no available running backs. They had to sign guys off the street, including the best running back in Ravens history, Devonta Freeman. But I digress on that. You also have other situations where Lamar Jackson's body transformations take over Ravens social media seemingly every single offseason. We've seen Lamar gain a ton of muscle and mass. We've seen him lose a ton of muscle and mass as well. Lamar decided to kind of focus more on the leaner aspects. Look, we've seen Lamar win an MVP, skinny Lamar. We've seen him hulking strong Lamar. He's won an MVP both ways. He had an MVP type caliber season last year as well. And Scott Elliott was asked about Lamar Jackson losing weight, focusing on his body and the emphasis. And Scott Elliott said, with Lamar, it's to take what he did last year and continue that process. As you guys saw, he's in great shape at this point last year. He is again this year. And then we wanted to just lay down some lean muscle tissue as we got into the season. And you saw that as we got into the season, he was up a few pounds, then played at that MVP caliber level. And then he mentioned if he had a vote, he would have, he said, I know what I would have voted for the MVP, but then mentioned that's the plan for this year as well. So getting some lean muscle tissue as they got into the year. He was up a few pounds. What do you think about the process for Lamar Q and the fact that they're going to try that again this season? Because clearly, it worked pretty well for him last year.
It's interesting because this is where I recall, I don't know, when he tried to put on that mask, and I made a comment over on X, and the Lamarites, they hatched their egg and they grew up rapidly, and they tried to come out and be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. With that said, the way in which Lamar, his own self, validated, look, I definitely was too big, and I definitely needed to slim it down and be a lot more mobile and agile. That's going to help my game and benefit my game. I think what Scott is saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So however you want to like color it up. I think for Lamar Jackson, when he is able to be elusive, when he's able to have that max acceleration like we saw on what was it, Christmas with Beyonce, and I mean he just literally with ease just accelerated to the end zone. But then we also saw some of the beautiful plays where he was just extending plays and just slinging the ball to whether it be Rashod Bateman to the back of the end zone a couple of different times, or just the sustaining of his energies throughout and him having just an amazing game in the playoff run against the Steelers. So I think the bigger picture, heck, you even talk about Buffalo, like he didn't have like some like, oh my God, bad game. No, Lamar Jackson was Lamar Jackson. He was that guy. But that's what I'm saying. It was sustained throughout the entire year. So I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't try to, yeah, put something on him that doesn't need to be. I think he is one of one, and I think he knows more than anybody, especially going, what is this, year 9 now? Damn. Let's just pause on that for a second. Woo! I mean, it feels like yesterday, but yeah, year 9. Like it now it shifts because you had your young man energy, and now it shifts into a more different style of energetic, conserving your body, not wanting to take these unnecessary hits. So you can get into year 13 and 14. So this is where it starts to shift. And I think that's something that Lamar is very keenly aware of.
Yeah, definitely. Lamar in year 8. He's going into year 8 this year, but still.
Year 8, okay.
No, regardless, yeah, we're not. He's not that old yet. He's not that old yet. So, but
I feel better now.
I know, but he is coming up on his age 30 season, which is year 9 will be by the end of that year. He will be 30.
And that's where I'm saying that, when you're talking in that coming up on 30, you have to look at it differently than you did when you were, 28, 29 years old. There's just a different flow to it. There's a different way when you're 23, 24, 25. And I think he's figured that out. I think he's known for a while how to manage himself, to keep himself going. And I think last year was a strong indicator that, yeah, you know what, year 8, I'm good. I'm just gonna keep on going. So I'm happy for him.
Speaking of 30-year-olds, Derrick Henry had a pretty good year last year as a 30-year-old himself, as he continues to try to battle off Father Time, but he is unreal. And Scott Elliott was asked about him because he obviously takes a lot of care of his body. He has been very clear he spends a lot of money every year to take care of his body. And Scott Elliott was asked if there was anything that Derrick Henry did that Scott Elliott ended up incorporating, and he told a story about in that time between minicamp and training camp, Derrick Henry had asked to write up a workout before going on that break. And then by the end of everything, he had his brother doing it. Everybody in the weight room was doing it. So Henry has come in and made an impact, not just, on the field, but off of it. Seems like he's getting guys working. He's pushing guys to be better. I mean, Q, you and I both loved the Henry signing when it happened, but based off the story that Scott Elliott told here and how much Henry cares both about winning and competing on the field, but also making sure that he is in the best shape to be able to do that. I mean, it has gone so well his time in Baltimore, and he clearly himself has enjoyed it with some of the comments that he's made.
So it's interesting because when Qadry was on the it was training camp, so still the 90-man roster wasn't formed into the practice squad just yet, but they travel up to Green Bay, and I love recovery. Like, they called me Gadget Man when I was in the league, and it was just because of all the different, like, I was Derrick Henry before Derrick Henry. Like, Tom Brady has nothing on what I used to do. All those things. And yes, I learned it from the guys before me. So it wasn't like, I'm some, inventor. It's like you just don't reinvent the wheel. You just go ahead and add it as your own. Qadry and I were talking. I was like, yo, for your trip to Green Bay, you should bring some different recovery tools. And so he was a little nervous. He's like, well, I don't know, how much luggage I can or cannot bring. That's a lot. And so at the same time, he was like, yeah, Dad, never again. I'm not worried about it. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, D Hen had literally a big, full size suitcase that he brought with him that had all the recovery tools and things that he needed. And I was like, yes, that is the professionalism that you have to have. You know what you need to do to get yourself ready, and you leave no stone unturned. So even for a practice that he probably wasn't going to be as involved in, and certainly not in the preseason game itself, but he still was like, yeah, this is my routine. I'm sticking to it. So it doesn't surprise me that his influence was seen in the strength and conditioning staff.
He's someone that it's gone so beyond expectations. The expectations were already high in themselves, and I think the fact that it's gone beyond those just shows you how important Derrick Henry has been as a veteran leader, both on and off of the field. But coming up in the final part of the show, our Darius Washington officially back in Baltimore. Q and I will talk about that, some draft talk. So be sure to stay tuned. We got a lot coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your pair controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass. Ultimately, EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports, College Football 25, to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and Avowed. As easy as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. And it can be a great option to start playing Xbox, and it can be a game changer with your gaming experience. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV. Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Qadry Ismail still talking with you here. Our Darius Washington officially signed his $3.26 million tender. He is back with the Ravens for 2025. There was no offer sheet signed by the deadline that was on Friday. There was a lot of worry when it came to the Ravens signing our Darius to that right of first refusal tender. There was no draft compensation attached to that. If our Darius were to sign an offer sheet, the Ravens said, hey, we don't want to match that, they would have gotten nothing for him in that case. It kind of honestly brought me back to our Lamar Jackson conversations. We were having all that exclusive, not exclusive franchise tag talk for months and months and months. But this is a steal of a deal for Baltimore. You know, there's no question about that. Our Darius took to social media after the tender signing was announced and posted an Instagram story of Kobe Bryant, same picture of him working in the gym. Kobe when he's happy, Kobe when he's sad, on both of those. So essentially that to me is a message of, hey, might not have gone the way I wanted in terms of the deal that I could have gotten, but I'm still going to work hard regardless and get after it and make sure I'm the best that I can be, which I think, you know, he's going to be a professional, and that's something that's really valuable, especially for a young player. What's your take on our Darius, the contract situation, and kind of this, how this whole thing unfolded for the Ravens?
Leverage is king. When you got it, use it. When you don't, boy, you better hope and pray that the other person is giving you grace. And I think for Ardarius, he didn't have a lot of leverage going into the season. Then things kind of happened the way they happened, and he got some leverage, and he used it wisely. And now I think it is a scenario where, yeah, generational wealth is happening across the league with a lot of different players because of the different guarantees and contracts and such. However, leverage, you don't have as much as you think. And therefore, for Eric DeCosta, everybody was like, oh, it was such a smart move by Eric DeCosta. Oh, he gambled and it paid off because he offered him a low tender, and other teams, you know, they weren't really there to sign him. And okay, you didn't have as much leverage as you thought, but that's where, from a Kobe Bryant, you know, whatever Twitter sign that he kind of put out there to say, look, you know, I'm sad. And then the other one is like, okay, I'm ready to go. That's what it is. You know that you got to gain leverage. And for him, he's got to have a repeat of how he played going into the latter part of last season, where the pass defense was just god awful. And it gave him an opportunity to show that as much as it's got awful with me in there, we're better. And so, yes, you got guys like Kyle Hamilton, who clearly had leverage for the fact that he's a first-round draft choice, but then also the way in which he played under different coordinators. Both times he put himself in that upper echelon elite territory, and so he has ultimate leverage. Learn from that for yourself, Darius. Continue to do what you do, stay healthy, and the bag will come. Right now, you're hoping that, praying that the tax man doesn't take it too much.
If he has the baller year this year, he's going to get a bag. If he walks, the Ravens get a comp pick. Everybody's happy there. But Darius is a heck of a player. You know, I've been very impressed with him over the course of his career so far. I know he's battled injuries. He's on the smaller side in terms of profile, but he plays so much bigger than his size. He's physical. He has the ball skills. So hopefully another great year for Darius. But in the draft queue, the Ravens might take a safety. We don't know. One of those players, Malachi Starks, has been linked to Baltimore a lot out of Georgia. Who knows if he actually goes there? Again, next time we talk, we're going to know officially who this next young group of Ravens is. First round position. Give me your final prediction. What position do the Ravens go in the first round at 27, assuming they stay there?
Whew, as much as everybody's talking about offensive line, I don't see that unless there's something there, some hidden long-term injury that we don't know about. I think defensively you have to consider that, depending upon Odafe Oweh. If they go ahead and get a trade and they get that thing to work, I think it's going to be all edge rusher. And if they don't, and Malachi Starks falls to them, I think it'd be a great opportunity to get him. You secure your secondary. You know that you already have Darius Washington. You know that you got Kyle Hamilton, but if Kyle is too expensive, and that's the Lamar Jackson effect of having a salary cap the way it's going to be. But if he's too expensive, then you got a young, less expensive player that can, kind of morph his way and fill in the role. So those are good problems to have, but I want a now ready player. I don't want no developmental. Don't give me all that speculative BS corniness. Oh, his upside. You know what his upside is? Where's the Super Bowl being held this year?
San Francisco.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing our show out in San Francisco. We ain't trying to be talking about some, well, in 2 years, he's going to be, no. We want homeboy to be contributing now. Let's go.
Yep, I'm with you. And you know what, Malachi Starks, maybe he'll be a Raven by the time it's all said and done. And that color purple will become a pretty main staple of what he does over the next at least 4 or 5 years. But Q, appreciate you as always. Thank you for hopping on. Tell people where they can find you and what you're working on, especially during draft week. It's probably a busy, busy time for you right now.
Yeah, I tell you what, from a draft aspect of things, I'll be on WJZ. We're going to have our draft special. So you can check me out on Channel 13, WJZ, for our Purple Draft special. At the same time, that's on Thursday for the first round. And so you can also, obviously, Missile Training, missiletraining.com. I'm a movement and sports performance coach, and doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the person, doesn't matter if you're a team or an individual. All your training needs right here at Missile Training. You can find me at missiletraining.com. And then, of course, we speculate. Speculation is going to be over pretty soon, and we're going to be talking football on Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher and I, right here, every week, we break it down, giving you what you need, your Ravens fix.
You can check Q out here on Locked On Ravens every week. And, of course, be sure to check him out over at missiletraining.com. The link's all in the description down below to Q's work. Q, appreciate you as always. And thank you to everybody who watched and listened today to Locked On Ravens. Coming up tomorrow, we'll be talking more Ravens, more draft. And tomorrow, it will be 1 day until the 2025 NFL Draft. So be sure to stay tuned. Hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along and subscribe in audio form on the way out. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.